If you don't get him, you might get Robert Snodgrass. I just read that and I thought to myself, I'd love to see Snoddy back now. He's got a sweet left peg on him.
And free agent, makes sense. Only, 5 years ago, £10 million. Who paid that? West Ham?
Yep.
Yeah, so you'll be keen on Snodgrass if you're the man. Was it Moyes that bought him?
Yes.
Was it?
No, he wouldn't have been. He wasn't there then.
But that's enough.
But he's a good player.
Absolutely. And he's got 20 odd Scotland caps.
Yeah, I remember him as a youngster at Livy. He was just a great.
And I know what I would like about Robert Snodgrass, and I've said this about time to time when players have come to Motherwell, a certain type of player. I think he's got something to prove. Because the way his career has panned out, I think he'd love to come at Motherwell and put on a bit of a show and say, look, I've still got it,
Yeah.
What age is he?
Well, I think he's he'll be about 33, 34 maybe.
But again, Ian's old pals, two most famous at Motherwell, Bobby Russell and the late great Davy Cooper, they weren't the boys when they came to Motherwell. They were magnificent.
But by the way, Ian, on that point, and this is the perfect point because we had him as a regular pundit on this programme, it's quite simply experienced players and players that have played at a higher level. We had Charlie Adam on. Now, Charlie, you couldn't get him running about, but Charlie could pick 30, 40 yard passes, see something that nobody in the park could see, but he also made, and you'll appreciate this, he made a 10-yard pass look easy.
Yeah, and I think if we go back to the time when I joined Motherwell, I think I was just turning 30, Davy Cooper, Bobby Russell, Craig Patterson.
Yep.
We're coming into teams with Tommy Boyd just coming through, Phil O'Donnell just coming through, there was loads of them, and that mixture of experience and youth really helped those kids. Can you imagine young Phil O'Donnell on the left hand side of the midfield playing alongside Davy Cooper, with the knowledge that Cooper had, Tommy Boyd, Tommy would put the gas burners on down the left hand side, Davy Cooper would find him with any pass and see a pass better than, and I'm not saying but Tommy would gain confidence for that because he had somebody playing alongside him who would encourage him to make these runs, because I'll find you, just you run, I'll find you. And it was a great dressing room to have because the young boys came through, kept the old boys kind of fit and healthy and young, and the older fellas would pass on experience and just say, calm down, we get into semi-finals or a final and we won the cup, just get them on a nice even keel. And with the boy Snodgrass, if he comes to Motherwell, I think from one of my old clubs, I think that'd be a fantastic signing with his experience and obviously he's got goals in him, he's got that leadership in him that he's played at a very high level. I think he'd be a fantastic signing for Motherwell.
Yeah, apart from Coop, because I think he was in a league of his own, especially in the twilight of his career, because as Tam knows, my brother's a Motherwell fan, and when he signed, week in, week out, he couldn't stop raving about him. He was just like, this guy he was just going down to Fir Park to see David Cooper. That was his only, he was just looking, thinking, I'm going to see this guy who stood out from everybody. He could play passes, and every Motherwell fan thought the same thing. Was there another player that came in another side that you thought, oh, wait a minute, this guy's I didn't realise he was that good?
Well, again, nobody would make the same sort of impact on a club that Davy would. The second season I was at Motherwell, I was going to Fir Park to watch him as well. To be honest, impact from players that I played with and played against. When I was growing up, I'm the youngest player in the team. I had the likes of Jockey Scott, who was coming to the end of his career at Dundee, who played up front and passed on a lot of tips. My first management team was Tommy Gemmell and Willie Wallace, and Willie Wallace, for being a striker, just to get that feedback off him at training. We used to do shooting practice, and he gave me one tip. He says, son, I've been watching you for a wee while. He says, when you get the ball, you get an opportunity to score, just you hit it as hard as you can, because the ball knows where it's going. And he says, that's what I did, and I took him to task over that. I did that every time I got the ball. Right. Just try to hit it as hard as you can, because you pick things up off somebody who's got the experience and the medals in the cupboard, that you go, man, you have to listen to that, and you have to listen to the advice of the experienced players.
Was Strachan in that Dundee side?
He was only there for a very fleeting moment. They swapped Gordon for Jim Shearer. Remember Jim Shearer?
Yeah.
I think it was 50 grand, and Gordon went up to Aberdeen and obviously was a fantastic player for them. And Jim came, a very lovely fellow, hard-working midfield player, and came into the Dundee team, I think the phrase you could kick his granny, I think Jim was one of them boys.
Right.
But Gordon had just left, he was there just before I got there.
Yeah, it's just the mention, as soon as you mentioned there, Tommy Gemmell as the manager. Ruffy, is there a player that springs to mind?
Oh, if you're sitting in a dressing room and the door opens and George Best walks in, you know you're getting somebody special. You know you're getting somebody special, and he was special. On and off the park, he was special. Particularly on a night out, it was really special.
Did you feel in any way maybe inept, Ruffy, because he'd been out with 4 Miss Worlds?
Oh no. You always just like hanging about people like that. You never know what you might discard.
Brilliant, Ruffy. Anyway, apart from anything else, great getting a wee insight there into the players. Snodgrass would be a welcome addition to the game. We want to see good players. Obviously, we want to see young developing players, which is young McKinstry. You've managed to get him back.
Yeah, makes you feel old, that one. A bit like Ian, of course, and myself. His mum and dad were at Braithurst High School in Motherwell, Karen and John, and I knew them right through the school. And see, when you hear your team signing your old schoolmate's son, you suddenly think, you can smell the clay off your cell, but it's so it's brilliant. But you know what, I don't know if you saw the wee video that Motherwell put out of his arrival back at Fir Park. Obviously we've only got him in loan. I mean, he went down there to Leeds, and he's just a young boy, but he came back and the club filmed him in our East stand, in the John Hunter stand, looking at the seat where he used to sit with his mum and dad and all that, and with his granddad and all the rest of it, and it was brilliant. It's a great wee club. But there's another guy for a different reason. He's maybe got a point to prove. That's why I'm excited about him as well, because Snodgrass and folk think, that's him, he's washed up, he's finished, he's done. 10 million, who paid that for him? He'll have a point to prove. But for McKinstry as well, being a Motherwell fan, a Motherwell boy, and then playing suddenly in front of the guys that he used to sit next to, he'll be wanting to turn it on and on. It's like every kid's dream.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, because we're at that point, we're not dwelling too much on the Hearts game, because we'll talk about it in greater detail tomorrow. But as far as players moving in and out, Ruffy, I'm amazed Billy Gilmore has just been discarded by Chelsea. It'll be interesting to see who actually gets him. Everton have been linked with him, Brighton. Certainly there are Premier League clubs that think he can do a job for them.
Well, I hope he's learned his lesson for the last one. Norwich wasn't the choice. I don't know if it was Chelsea's choice or his choice or his agent or whoever, but I think he has to be really wise now and pick the best team that's going to suit him. Obviously, he'll be wanting to play week on, week out. I think that's really, really important. So, no, he's still got a lot to offer. We saw it with the Scotland team. So it's important for us as well with the Scotland team that he gets in a team and he's playing regular, because he's got wonderful ability. Yeah,
I mean, some players, there's always this association with the top 5%, Ian, who never find it difficult to get a club. They're multi-millionaires. And then there are players that are going to be really good signings that you think somebody would snap up. Billy Gilmore's one of them. Tom Rogic hasn't got a club. I'm amazed. He left out a contract at Celtic. Seems to be in no man's land at the moment.
I'm amazed at that myself, because I thought he was a massive influence for Celtic. He seemed to leave of his own accord, so automatically you think he's leaving at the end of his contract to go somewhere that he's already chosen, somewhere he's going to go. But to be a free agent and not have a club at this moment in time seems a bit strange for me. But again, I couldn't read too much into it. I don't know if he's went back to Australia. I don't know if he's looking to sort of wind down that way. But I've read a few things in the newspapers. They say that he's not got a club so far, and the Australian manager's looking for him to get into the World Cup squad. And it seems a bit strange that he's not managed to find something.
Yeah, there was a wee shout that maybe Neil Lennon was looking at him, but I'm sure there are some clubs out there that would look to him. Celtic obviously are looking to strengthen their side ahead of that draw next week for the Champions League. They've been linked with the Sead Haksabanovic. I'll not say that too many times. It'll be pronounced so many different ways, Tam, but it just shows you that of all the signings that he's made, Ange Postecoglou is looking to get one or two in before they get to that group stage that they know they're going to be playing in.
Yeah, as I say, I immediately in my heart of hearts look at any story like this as a Motherwell fan, because you look at the benches now with Celtic and Rangers, and they're already extremely strong.
Yeah, you don't like the five subs.
No, I mean, it gives them such an advantage. You've almost got another team sitting there, because I know you're allowed to bring 5 on in 3 phases, but then you know what it's like. You've almost got a B team sitting in the technical area now, and you wonder how clubs are meant to be able to compete. We can't simply, we keep saying 37 years now since neither Celtic nor Rangers won the title, and I don't see that ending anytime soon.
No, absolutely not. And of course, Celtic and Rangers potentially could be in the group stages of the Champions League. Callum McGregor was having a chat yesterday and said it would be just a measure of how Scottish football is getting better.
You see, obviously, Rangers' success in Europe last season in terms of getting to the final, the Europa League. It was then a good advert for the league in terms of where the quality was. So, for the two teams to be in the top competition, then of course it tells you the strength of the league.
I'm not so sure it would tell us the strength of the league.
Moving his lips.
Absolutely, I know. It was brilliant. It's a long story with Celtic and Rangers, but nevertheless, I really don't want to get into it. But apart from anything else, you look at Celtic and Rangers. It's not a measure of Scottish football. A real measure of us getting better would be if Hearts suddenly were in Europa League. I think that would be a sense of the real strength of it all. With 3 clubs, suddenly we've got to look forward to all the way to December, and then, as Rangers proved last season, Ian, possibly beyond.
Well, I think what Rangers achieved last season in the Europa League was amazing. I mean, some of the games out. Working back at a club in hospitality, and I was at a couple of the games, and they were given no chance really against Dortmund and Leipzig. And I mean, some of the performances and the way they played was fantastic, especially for Scottish football. Getting to a Europa League final was massive. I do agree. I think Rangers and Celtic financially are way in front of everybody else domestically. But again, Hearts and Robbie Neilson, I think, has went back with the ethic that Hearts used to have, very difficult to beat. It's going to be a real hard place to go and get your points at Tynecastle this season, that's for sure. And I would love to see them progressing in Europe tonight and moving further forward, so it gives the rest of the league something to look at, because they've not had bundles of money. I mean, they're a very well supported club, Hearts, and fantastic crowd that go there. But I mean, they've not been spending fortunes to get the squad together. Barry Mackay, I think, I agree with Tam. I said he went down south, and he's not up here for the money. No. He's up here to get a game. Right. He wants to play. It's a bit like Billy Gilmour when you're talking about him. Would the Rangers fans love to see him come back and maybe coming on loan to Rangers? I'm quite sure they would. And I'm quite sure it would be a comfortable place for Billy to come, progress his career, get some game time, do well for the national team as well, and who's to say that, I've never heard anything like that, but I mean, obviously it wouldn't be a bad option for him if Rangers were interested to slot him into the midfield to get him a game.
If you want to stay up to date with all the latest breaking football news in Scottish football, tune in to PLZ Soccer's Facebook, Twitter and YouTube channels.